Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you 35 RPG or games with RPG elements starting from 1996 and ending in 2024. I'm using AI generated voice because, as you can hear, my English is the best, cause I'm from Russia. Enjoy the video!
In 1996, while the world was celebrating the launch of the Nintendo 64, Blizzard North, then known as Condor, decided it was time to battle demons and created Diablo. From its release, computer mice never knew rest. Clicking on demons became almost a sport. Diablo didn't just open a portal to hell, it launched a franchise that became the dream of collectors of rare swords and mysterious hats. When Interplay released Fallout in 1997, many began to think about the possibility of an apocalypse and the need to stock up on canned food. But instead of hiding in a bunker, players were invited to explore post-apocalyptic wastelands filled with colorful characters. The special system allowed players to create a hero capable of anything, from a charming, talkative peacemaker to a walking nuclear threat. While the world was discussing the launch of the first module of the International Space Station and the creation of Google, BioWare decided the world needed real heroes and released Baldur's Gate. This game became a kind of university for future fantasy strategists and diplomats. A deep plot, party tactics, and an open world made it a tabletop game with autosave and without the risk of losing pieces. While many were preparing for the space age, Troika Games decided that the future was a combination of Steam and Magick. Arcanum blended steampunk and fantasy, creating a unique world full of conflicts between technology and magic. Despite technical difficulties, the game showed that the world could be both illogical and enchanting, like a steam engine powered by magical crystals. In 2001, Piranha Bytes created a harsh world and a strict schooling system for adventurers. Gothic offered players a tough survival school, where even a boar was scarier than your character at the early levels. The faction system, complex combat, and easily offended NPCs made the game a hardcore pleasure. Gothic II opened up an entire archipelago of new problems and enemies ready to destroy you. The game became so beloved by fans that even 20 years later, it continues to receive mods. In 2002, BioWare saw potential in modding and created a platform that allowed players to build their adventures. The game's development was tough. The team had to implement a new graphics engine and write code from scratch. Their efforts paid off, and Neverwinter Nights ushered in a new era of user-generated content, turning players into both heroes and dungeon masters. When Bethesda presented Morrowind, players didn't just get a game, they got a ticket to the island of Vardenfell, a place where every house, temple, and volcano hid its own story. The world was so diverse that you immediately wanted to visit every character, even if they were a stone shaman. The numerous factions and freedom of action made Morrowind the standard for open worlds for years to come. In 2003, scientists discovered 123 new species, while BioWare was developing Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. The Canadian studio created an epic story, respected by both fans and newcomers. They spent an enormous amount of time balancing the light and dark sides of the Force, integrating it into a non-linear narrative. In 2004, Google began trading shares, and Lionhead Studios began selling dreams. Leading the Fable project was Peter Molyneux, a master of promises and an advocate of open worlds. Despite not all ideas being realized, Fable became a successful game, offering a non-linear world where every action, from stealing an apple to saving a village, left its mark on the character's appearance and fate. In 2006, the world was getting into social media, and Iron Lore Entertainment decided that players needed another reason to stay online. Titan Quest sent players on a journey through the worlds of ancient civilizations, offering battles with legendary titans and the collection of mythical items. Despite the studio's closure, the game's contribution to the action RPG genre wasn't forgotten. In 2006, Piranha Bytes decided to expand the Gothic universe to entirely new scales. Gothic 3 became an ambitious project where developers sought to combine a vast world, complex faction systems, and captivating quests. However, technical issues and bugs marred the game's release. Despite this, Gothic 3 found its fan base and attracted many talented modders who spent years perfecting the game. In 2006, Bethesda introduced Oblivion to the world, another masterpiece in the Elder Scrolls series. The game, built on the Gamebryo engine, offered a huge world full of factions, side quests, and exploration opportunities. Oblivion featured updated NPC intelligence and a dynamic weather system, making the world even more alive and interactive. Its well-crafted plot, innovative technology, and radiant AI, which allowed NPCs to live their lives, made the game iconic. In 2007, Apple introduced the first iPhone, and BioWare created a new sci-fi universe in Mass Effect. The main character, Shepard, embodied your decisions in a game where moral choices were just as important as accuracy in battle. The game's development took 4 years, during which BioWare created an entire galaxy filled with aliens, spaceships, and political intrigues, turning Mass Effect into a cult classic. In 2008, Bethesda Game Studios decided to radically change the RPG formula, bringing the Fallout universe from an isometric perspective to full 3D. The new open world was filled with radioactive wastelands and dark humor. The special system and VITS mechanics allowed players to strategically deal with super mutants and raiders. In 2009, when the Large Hadron Collider set a world record for proton beam speed, Piranha Bytes decided to start fresh and created Risen. The game transported players to a new fantasy archipelago full of secrets, magic, and monsters. Despite the difficult development conditions following the breakup with Joe Wood and the loss of rights to the Gothic series, the team remained true to its principles of creating deep and complex worlds where every quest mattered. While the world was celebrating the launch of Google Chrome in 2008, BioWare was preparing a return to the fantasy world with the release of Dragon Age: Origins in 2009. The development took 5 years, and the studio created an entirely new world, Thedas, home to elves, dwarves, mages, and demons. Inspired by classic RPGs like Baldur's Gate, the developers added more darkness and political intrigue. In 2009, the Japanese studio From Software introduced Demon's Souls to the world. The game's development was challenging, and not everyone in the studio believed in the project's success. However, the complex and fair combat system won the hearts of many players. Demon's Souls became the precursor to an entire genre of Souls-like games, immersing players in an atmosphere of constant risk where every enemy could be their last. In 2010, while Dubai opened the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, Obsidian Entertainment headed to the wastelands with Fallout: New Vegas. The Obsidian team, led by veterans of the first Fallout development, created a project with deeper dialogue and well-thought-out factions. Hard to produce due to tight deadlines and bugs, New Vegas still became a standout entry in the franchise thanks to sharp humor, attention to detail, and the ability to play every situation your way. In 2011, as the world was captivated by the debut of the Game of Thrones series, From Software continued their legacy by presenting Dark Souls. The game, filled with mysteries and ruthless monsters, offered a unique gameplay experience where the feeling of defeat motivated players to search and improve. The new bonfire system and interconnected world made Dark Souls the benchmark for future action RPGs. In the same year that NASA bid farewell to the Space Shuttle program, CD Projekt Red released The Witcher 2. The game offered complex moral choices and a non-linear plot, based on a new engine. Dynamic and cinematic battles, despite a modest budget, helped The Witcher 2 win numerous awards and paved the way for the studio's global recognition. In 2011, when the world was grappling with the Fukushima nuclear disaster, Eidos Montreal introduced a futuristic cyberpunk world in Deus Ex: Human Revolution. The creation of the game was challenging, but the team was inspired by the original from Ion Storm. Players were once again given extensive choice options, and the setting accurately reflected concerns about the future of technology, where mechanical implants blur the line between man and machine. In 2011, as humanity prepared for the end of the world, in 2012, Bethesda Game Studios released Skyrim. The game became one of the studio's most ambitious projects, improving combat and magic systems, and offering players a vast open world inspired by Northern mythology. Skyrim quickly achieved cultural phenomenon status thanks to player-created mods and continues to live in the industry to this day. In 2014, as the world celebrated the World Cup, Larian Studios introduced Divinity: Original Sin. The game, partially funded through Kickstarter, brought back the hardcore elements of classic RPGs with a turn-based combat system. Freedom of action, environmental manipulation, and the combination of abilities became the game's hallmark, reviving interest in classic role-playing games. In 2015, while everyone was discussing the new Star Wars trilogy, CD Projekt Red created a huge and vibrant world in The Witcher 3. The game set a high bar with its rich quests, characters, and stunning landscapes. The project took almost 4 years to develop, and the studio invested significant resources to create an engaging adventure that won numerous awards and worldwide player acclaim. In 2015, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe was at its peak, Bethesda released Fallout 4. The game introduced settlement building elements, giving players more freedom in choosing their path. Despite criticism for bugs, the game found its audience thanks to the depth of the lore and players' creativity in setting up post-apocalyptic shelters. In 2016, when Leonardo DiCaprio won his first Oscar, From Software concluded the Dark Souls trilogy. The game combined the best elements of the previous parts, adding new mechanics and an improved combat system. The dark and deadly world of Dark Souls III captured the hearts of loyal fans, ending the cult series on a high note. In 2017, as people were overwhelmed with news overload, Larian Studios pushed the boundaries of cooperative RPGs. Divinity Original Sin 2 offered up to 4 players a non-linear plot and deep mechanics, where choices had dramatic consequences. The studio boldly experimented with mechanics, creating a vast world filled with humor, dangers, and original ways to solve problems. In 2017, as everyone was learning about Bitcoin, Piranha Bytes presented their vision of a post-apocalyptic world, with elements of magic and technology in Elex. The game offered an action RPG with an open world where factions fought over a unique resource called Elex. In 2017, as the popularity of battle royales reached its peak, Ubisoft returned to the roots of the series and sent players to ancient Egypt with Assassin's Creed Origins. The game offered a vast world with a leveling system, an emphasis on quests and exploration. The project took 3 years to develop, and the studio conducted extensive research to create the most authentic world possible. Origins introduced players to the origins of the Assassin Brotherhood and reignited interest in ancient civilizations. In 2018, as the world watched a supermoon eclipse, Warhorse Studios presented Kingdom Come Deliverance, a role-playing game striving for historical accuracy. Unlike many fantasy projects, this was a refreshingly realistic adventure, though marred by bugs. Realistic combat mechanics and a historically accurate plot became key features of the game, making it a unique experiment. In 2020, as the world adapted to the new reality due to the pandemic, CD Projekt Red presented Cyberpunk 2077. The game promised a revolution, but its release was riddled with technical problems and bugs. The development took many years, and players were offered a huge neon metropolis, Night City. Despite the issues, the complex quests and attention to detail made Cyberpunk 2077 a notable event, especially after numerous patches and updates. In 2022, as the world population reached 8 billion, From Software presented Elden Ring. A collaboration with George Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones, helped create a deep mythology. The vast open world, where players could explore, fight, and find adventures in any order, combined the best of the studio's previous games with a new story and mechanics. In 2023, as artificial intelligence stormed into our lives, Larian Studios released Baldur's Gate 3. The game, developed over 6 years, included a deep, interactive story where players could express themselves through their decisions and consequences. Thousands of possible dialogue outcomes and well-crafted scenarios set a new standard for story-driven RPGs, bringing elements of Dungeons & Dragons into the gameplay. In 2024, as the world continued to change, Capcom presented the sequel to its popular series, Dragon's Dogma 2. The game retained dynamic and large-scale battles, improved graphics, and a companion system, but quests and microtransactions somewhat marred the overall impression. Nevertheless, the game was remembered for its immersive gameplay and became a favorite among fans of the genre.